not get as much communication from your central government as we would like, so we began holding town hall meetings, is what we call them. And the ground rules are this. We have multiple officials here. We invite everyone from the federal, state, local levels. We have a wealth of resources of information here. All the questions don't always have to be directed to the mayor. Of course, you can ask me any question. I'll do my best to provide you the information that you're wanting. But you also have other resources here. It's an excellent time for all of us to talk a lot of issues. And that's what these town hall meetings were for. Was basically, let's get informed as a citizenry. Again, as far as the ground rules, this is the mayor's town hall meeting. I'll leave it up to the other county officials or city officials if they're in the audience to answer. They don't have to. But if you ask me a question, I'm going to come back with information to the best of my ability. We'd like to start off with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll give you an update on some Big Sandy area specific initiatives that we've got, either whether it be built in the budget or whether they're projects that we've got on tap to pursue over the coming year. We will move from those into just general county issues. If you've got any other questions or concerns that you want to ask, it doesn't have to just be Big Sandy, but the reason we start off Big Sandy specific is because we want you to know what your county's doing for you in your neck of the woods, so to speak. We'll wrap it up with just a quick summary. If there's any questions that you maybe haven't thought of or that you don't know that you want to ask in a public setting, and you just want me to email you a response, I've got forms up here you can write your questions down on. Just provide an email. Your name is optional. I prefer your name, but basically, you just want to put your email and your question or concern. I'll go back to the office. I'll address it with an email response to you. All right. So, if everyone would just bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together here as a citizenry, as concerned citizens wishing to advance and promote our county to the best and goodwill of its citizens. We ask that you be with the leaders here present, give them wisdom, guide them with their information, let them absorb knowledge and turn it into the best benefit of those that they serve. We ask that you bless our homes and our communities, bless this great county. All this we ask in our Savior's name. Amen. Amen. And now we'll pledge, please. Colonel King, I'm going to let you lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've got for those, we just passed the county budget. I guess this is something I'd like to start off on. This is the Ford County budget. I presided over the county commission. They had some challenges. This was one of the more challenging years that we have seen in our budgeting because we had to factor in how this economic situation was going to affect our revenues and our expenditures going forward. Now, one example of that is one I like to use is the Sheriff's Department or the Highway Department, high gasoline users. Well, I don't have to tell you the cost of gasoline and the impact that has on your budgets and the cost of goods that we will acquire throughout the year. So that was one of those elements that we haven't been presented with in prior budgets that we were faced with this year. Not only that, we always have salaries, your scheduled raises, your merit raises that you have to do. Government, on a general basis, will always grow a few percentage points every year just due to costs going up. This budget, the cost increases was well above 10%. And how do you manage that with limited revenues as well? The good news is that our that our property valuations have been going up. I kind of think of it as a stock market. After about 15 years of decline, the boom right there from 2016 to 2020 began putting value back in to the county's valuations. We began seeing an upward trajectory in our financial projections. And the way it looks, just comparing this budget to the last budget, you had about a $100,000 to $200,000, somewhere in that. We don't have the final numbers until we do the audit. But that's how much valuation was added to your property taxes income. So that allowed us to be able to offset some of these costs that we were seeing from the inflation hitting the expenditure side. So after 8 drafts, County Commission finally came up with a final draft and passed it. We did not have a tax increase. I think that's a compliment to the hard work of a lot of people getting together. One of our focuses 4 years ago was that we had to begin getting more accurate budgets. Depending on who you talk to, whether they trust the budget or not, you're always going to have skepticism. But we hired a CPA. She knows governmental accounting very well. And so since we have brought her on board, we at least trust our numbers a lot more. She makes sure everything's balanced and reconciled before we put it to the final draft. So I think that's one of the pluses that decision makers, we got a commissioner here, we got other people running for commissioner, they can make better decisions when they trust that the numbers are going to be more accurate. Now, there will always be a tussle between an opinion of what you estimate a revenue or an expenditure to be. That's what the budget process is for. Everyone's got an opinion, and hopefully at the end of the day, we will have properly put forth a very accurate opinion, which we believe we have. So after we adjusted our revenues, no tax increase, and we did not pull from our reserves, which had been a historic, a historical behavior of not only Benton County, but a lot of your rural counties that are struggling financially. A lot of times they will dip into the reserves in order to balance a budget. So they'll come to you and say, we balanced your budget. The question I'm concerned with is how much do we have to pull from the little pot here to balance your budget? And we have not done that in 4 years. So good news, I believe it's a solid budget. My plan, a strategy with the budget is going to be is get to about January and do a reevaluation. Because there were some departments that were probably shorted, that had to cut, that had not been used to cutting. We probably are running a few employees shy because of these cuts of where we need to be. But we'll get to probably December and January. We'll do a reevaluation of where the market is going, and if it is going favorably to us, I will probably present what you call readjusted budget. Amended budget come about January to shore up some of these deficiencies that we had to cut in this particular budget. One such department, I know everybody talks about the school resource officers. We know that is a big concern amongst our community with the sheriff's department. We do have it budgeted. Will it be sufficient? Well, it depends on the market. Can we hire school resource officers? Are they available to hire out there? With the current conditions, what we've been seeing as a pattern is we've always had a budget for school resource officers, but we just can't. The sheriff has been unable to attract people into those positions. So that's for more public debate going down the road. We do have it funded. But let's say we get to December and January and we see that there's a need for more. That's what these reevaluation budgets will be. You normally wouldn't have that type of approach, but only because of the economy being the way it is, I feel like it'd be appropriate in coming back mid-year and just seeing where we were and how accurate we are with the budget.
How much money is budgeted for the resource officers?
This one, I was just talking this up, it's showing $40,000. That's pretty much for one full-time position or probably a couple of part-time positions. Now, there was some discussion because the state of Tennessee had awarded Benton County Schools a $150,000 grant. And that grant was to basically cover us for 2 years, and you come up with half, we'll come up with half. And so when I left before my deployment, I don't know, for those that haven't met me, I've left for 10 months on a military deployment. We left with the full thinking that we would have school resource officers. And when the incident happened in Texas, we realized that we had not. Now, I did some reaching out to some neighboring counties and talked to some law enforcement personnel, and they said that they had the same problems as Benton County, that it's not unique just to Benton County, but they were having struggles in basically fully funding a full-time position. So they were pulling from other departments. They were saying, like, okay, we'll have deputies go by these schools on Tuesday, you go by on Wednesday, you go by on Thursday. Meaning they were able to juggle their manpower to at least give some presence. But is that enough for you, especially if you're a school administrator like Marty would be? It's never going to be enough, and especially in today's world, you never know when something's going to happen or trigger. But again, these are things for our sheriffs to really wrestle and come up with an effective plan. My job as your county mayor is to say, okay, how much is it going to cost? Do we have the funding? How are we going to get it? And but right now it is budgeted. I just can't give you any assurances that it will be filled. So I like to talk about, and I'm glad some Big Sandy City officials are with us today, because I've got a few talking points that are specific to Big Sandy City, right? And how their relationship might be with Benton County. If you've lived in this neck of the woods for a very long time, you kind of feel like you're ignored. I mean, maybe past history hasn't been where the county has stepped up to the plate and supported its cities the way it should. And so I understand it. So one thing that we have done, I believe, in the last several years is that we've at least extended our hands. How can we help the city of Big Sandy meet their financial goals and also meet the needs of the citizens? Because for those that grew up in the city of Big Sandy years ago, this was the heartbeat, right? I mean, everything was in the city. You had a good tax base. You had a good valuation of your properties, and they could sustain whatever needs of their citizens were. Well, we know now when people move to the Big Sandy area, they're more apt to live outside the Big Sandy city limits. But they're still using the city parks. They're still pulling from what you call city assets and city capabilities. So how does the city meet a growing demand when technically they're really not city citizens? And so this puts Big Sandy at a big disadvantage, because if Big Sandy's not going to annex or raise property tax, those are the only two ways that would be able to raise some revenues for them. So they haven't grown their footprint, but yet their expenses have not been going down, right? So Big Sandy will always come to projects with challenges. How are we going to pay for it? Where are we going to get the money? Who's going to be there to step up for us? I believe as a county official that we literally need to be dedicating specific monies to Big Sandy, reaching out, how can we assist, how can we help? So I guess one of the dynamics that I've walked into, I know that when the city park, when Autumn was mayor, they were doing the Sonny Melton project, they were doing some things on the city park, and the county had sold timber at our county ball field, right? And so we made $150,000 from timber in timber sales. Well, we took $30,000 of that and we gave it to the city of Big Sandy. So we felt like they have a park. We sold from the county ballpark. That was an excellent opportunity for us to redirect monies back to the benefit of Big Sandy. The following year, we gave Big Sandy another $25,000 commitment so that they could at least apply that towards capital improvements. Now, we didn't want them hiring a body, and we didn't want them basically doing an expenditure that was going to be a one-time, once-a-year expenditure. We wanted that to go into capital assets. That was left off of the last budget against my wishes. So I'm looking ahead. Okay, now how can I begin scrambling and finding some more monies to help Big Sandy with their financial challenges up here. One being the ballpark. I want to get the ballpark fixed. And I'm willing for the county to come up to the plate and pay for that project if we have to do it. We're giving the Camden High School money for their football field. I feel like it's only just that we come to the plate for Big Sandy. And we both can win. There's no reason why we can't do both of them. Now, the park is a major deal here. It is a high priority. I have got my opinions on how I would actually fund those particular projects. It, of course, requires I've got to be your mayor on September 1st, but there are some elements within this budget that we can detach and then reattach to assistance towards Big Sandy, and that's not planned. I hope that the city will do a reevaluation of their funding. They know what they've got. Can they come to the plate with funds to complete that park? But my intention is we're going to complete that park if we've got to bear that burden solely as a county, because that's something that we can do. And I feel like it's an equitable trade-off between helping one school, now we're helping another town. So to me, everybody wins with that type of partnership. I've always said anywhere you see a successful county, you see cities supporting its county. And anywhere you see successful cities, you see the county supporting its city. So we'll do the same thing with the city of Camden. And they've got several projects that they can't just do it on their own, right? As a county leader, I believe these are excellent opportunities for partnerships, and I'm going to seek those out. Another,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
question for you. Regarding the park in Sandy, what's your proposal? I know we're stretched on the county budget. What are you proposing we do to get that money? Where's that money going to come from?
well, first of all, we're going to remove Walmart language from the budget. Okay? So right now, we've got $2.5 million of money allocated to Walmart. All right, Walmart, old Walmart building in Camden. So there are opportunities within the budget. Simply, you don't have to move. The numbers are in the right places. It's just that the language of Walmart is tied to that particular budget. So you have to honor it. You cannot break that. It means it's going to Walmart. And to me, nothing is going to happen on Walmart for at least 2 years. It does not matter who your mayor is. There's not a single, I'm not spending a single penny on Walmart. I'm not going to spend a dime on that building until I know what y'all want it for. Okay? Because my plan is I want to sell it to the first viable buyer out there. I want to turn it into economic benefit for the community. I can get $800,000, $900,000, $1 million for that building. There's $200,000 right there for the city of Big Sandy in a blink of an eye. So, and that's not going from the current budget. That's simply the new money from selling that building. But I don't want to just sell it to anyone, right? You want to be picky. And I believe turning that building over to the industrial board to make that decision, to make sure they find the proper buyer for that building, it creates jobs and it creates tax revenue. Simply by buying that building, we took $26,000 worth of tax revenue off the books. Okay. Now, if we could ever utilize that building, that changes the landscape. Okay. You know, I'm the boy. Marty and I graduated the same year, right? I moved off for 30 years. I came back home. I came from a community that is very successful, and it's a thriving community, and they're busting at the seams, and they don't even consider these type of purchases without knowing that their population trends are going up, right? They see the need for the space and the capacity. We absolutely have none. We bought a building with no plan. I could throw you in there and throw you a wad of cash in there and say do something with it, and literally you'd be I don't know where we're going to put this. I don't know how they work with them. It really was just ill-conceived. And someone told me, they said, you know what, I can get a good deal on an ugly shirt. You know, and that shirt's going to sit in my closet, and I'm never going to wear it. So we really got a good deal. $750,000 for the building. If you look at valuation of the building, people can say we got a good deal. To me, you don't know what you're gonna use it for. However, we are a populace, and I want everyone weighing in. That's just my opinion. We may sit on it for 2 years or 3 years and suddenly have a need. Or we may have talked this out long enough for us to say, you know what? Maybe we can have this particular operation out of that building, or something like that. But just know, if I have to come to the, front with a plan, I'm gonna have one. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it's gonna cost, exactly what we're gonna put in it, what your timetable of implementation and execution is gonna be.
So I'd like to continue with something. You made a statement, if I'm in office September the 1st and beyond, I will defund the Walmart building project and move $150,000 to the Big Sandy Park project. How do you do that, and what process do you have to go through to be able to do that?
Well, okay, let's talk this. We've got, right now, just in the current budget, so just simply by removing the language, we've got $600,000 in the governor's grant right now, all right? So that particular money is discretionary monies that we received back in 2020, 2021. My approach to the governor's grant was that we put it into a pot and we leverage it towards other grants. So a lot of times, you got to come up with money to get grants, right? And sometimes they can actually cost you if you're not careful. Our problem is with cash flow, is that we can't ever fund these projects because of the cash flow. The governor's grant allows us that opportunity to have cash flow, complete a grant, get the reimbursement, put it back in the pot. So far, we have turned the governor's grant into $750,000 worth of grant work that didn't cost you a penny, that was 100% reimbursable, but it gave us the cash flow to be able to embark on those projects, complete them, get the money back, start another project. So we could take $150,000 out of that $600 and dedicate it towards the Big Sandy Parks project. Now, with Camden High School, we do have a community need, right? We've got soccer league, we've got minor league football, and they committed $200,000 of monies from property sales to that particular football field project. I'm not against it. I mean, we're not going to be ready with a soccer field or minor league football field probably for 4 or 5 years. It's one of those things you have to plan. You have to implement, you have to go after the grants, and then you have to reserve your money to the side. I probably would have paid for it differently. I would not have pulled from property sale money to fund that project. So my goal is to basically wait until the project is complete and then come to the table with monies to the Board of Education. We made that commitment. To me, we got to live by our word. We told the Board of Education that we would help them up to the tune of $200,000, and I believe we need to honor that since we did that. But that's what commissioners are for too, and we can all take that public debate out there and discuss that as it goes. I will probably try to use a different set of funding for it, okay? So this ARPA money that we got, the federal grant monies that we got, I believe there's an opportunity to pull from ARPA to fund that grant and use your property sale money for, it's a little bit more flexible. You see what I'm saying? The ARPA has to meet the specific need requirements of the grant. So another one is by detaching Walmart language from the budget. Right before I left on my deployment, we had did basically a goodwill gesture in a resolution obligating $900,000 out to our volunteer fire departments and our rescue squad. So we've got 9 of them, $100,000 each. Just their breathing apparatuses are roughly $7,500 each, and you have about 10 members. So you can see how they can go through $75,000 really quick. The ARPA grant, I will take $900,000 out of $1.7 million, totally obligated, and that will go to your $100,000 to each volunteer fire department and $100,000 to the rescue squad. So it's just simply detaching the language. The money's there, and those are for our debates, from the county commission side. but that's how we'll pay for projects such as the Big Sandy Park.
You brought up the county commission. For anybody who don't know me, I'm Terry King. I am a commissioner down here. And I've represented this district before. You made the statement, and first, thank you for not inviting me, okay? You come to the 6th district, but you don't invite the commission. I understand. The thing about, you're gonna defund. You're not gonna defund anything. You don't have the power to do that. That's the commission. You can't use money without the commission's approval. Now, I see a lot of good ideas, okay? But it's election season. Why didn't you come 3 years ago with all these good ideas?
You weren't here.
I wasn't here. You're gonna build, you wanna build a storm shelter for 100 people.
Yeah.
What's 101 gonna do?
Well, just put it this way, I'd be happy with 50.
Okay. But for you to stand up there and say, I'm going to defund this, I'm going to fund this, you can't.
Yes,
It's
I
the
can.
commission.
You don't know your
can't.
role.
Yes, sir.
You don't know your role. You've already said yes. You
Not
said-
to defund, no,
You
sir.
said yes when you put it in the budget.
Let me tell you
I am the
something.
CFO of the county. It is my discretion to tell you where we're gonna move it, and you say yes or no.
That's right.
When you
The
pass this
commission
budget,
does.
when you pass this budget, it is now in my league.
But don't sit up here and say, I'm gonna do this. We have to do it together.
You've already done it, and you've already done your part. You have funded the line. I told y'all that the money is in the right place, but you attached the Walmart language to it.
That's right, because
Okay.
you don't like the way
I am going to
I got it.
come, I'm
Okay?
gonna come with a simple amendment asking to basically take off the Walmart language. You put the money in the right place, and I'll give you credit. But we have to detach the language of Walmart before you can do these elements in it.
But see, I like the way that you're spinning it so you can you don't like Walmart. I understand it. You weren't here, okay? You say there wasn't a plan. Well, maybe not a written plan, but there are plans. You know, we got a lot of buildings that we could sell that would bring in tax revenue and move. You know, Walmart would make it good. Well, you can shake your head, Dustin, that's fine. It would be a great place for a farmer's market. Already got an outdoor center. It'd be a great place for a civic center. And nobody says we're gonna spend $7 million to start with. I have, thank
You
you.
know, we're always asked, what's your return on investment, right? So what return on investment is a 1/3 occupied building?
Future growth.
What?
I am all about that if our population was showing up, but our last census showed a decrease in our population.
Okay.
Our 18 and under population is either stagnant or dropped a percentage point. Our dynamics are not going in the right direction to be able to say Walmart is going to sufficiently handle our growth capacity. Now it may in 10 years, but I'm hedging that it's better to get rid of Walmart now, and 10 years from now, be in that predicament where there might be another strip mall building. There might be another building available at that time that we could utilize for that need when the need is there. So again, this is what debate is for. It's what your idea versus another person's idea, things like that. And so that's what discussion is for. But my frustration was, you've never asked me, you've never sat in my office one time and said, Mayor, what are you trying to do here? What are you going to do there? And you talk about not inviting you. First of all, I invite the public. Everyone is invited to these. We've started here in October of 2018. We have had crowds, multitude of crowds here. We have had commissioners here. Everyone is invited. We've had DAs, congressmen, anyone you want to hear. And all it's for is for us to discuss. Because, you know, when you and I and all of us get together, we always get the dang sunshine law or something like that. These are excellent opportunities for the community to talk. And I'm just telling you, I don't feel good about Walmart, right? I don't feel like we are busting at the seams where we will ever utilize that building to the benefit of the public. It will just be very empty. We'll have a few offices in it. And sometimes you can build a great thing in the wrong place.
Like when you were gonna build the thing down at the clock.
Which was absolutely the perfect place for it. Okay, and that's an opinion item right there. That's all it is. Okay, there was a reason why we were putting it down there. Fairgrounds, your historical stockyards were down there, co-op, agriculturally themed. It was also going to rejuvenate a section of town that needed that. It needed that spur. It needed that spark. We were going to fix the flooding, $1.4 million grant, really at zero cost to the taxpayer. So flooding was never going to be the issue. So it was a specific agricultural theme. We weren't going to put another item that would be contradictory to the mission and the environment and the culture that we were trying to build. It was all things agriculture. USDA, the commodities, UT Ag Extension. We were going to build a horticultural center and basically connect via sidewalks and walking paths to the fairgrounds so that they could do livestock judging, evaluations of whatever livestock or animals that they would have. It was going to fit the ag theme. It was specific for ag. We talked about it for 2.5 years. We put forth 5 public meetings. We had more plans than you could shake a stick at, and all you had to do was just flip the switch. The last thing we did before I left was pass the last funding mechanism, and you just had to start the project. So it's not there, and we regroup, and we'll figure it out. But on September 1st, I'll be moving forward with that particular project. We'll be addressing the Walmart needs to the community. Y'all heard my idea. That's how I'm going to move forward.
Well, my thing, Mayor, is this, okay? You say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We need to work together. It shouldn't be your vision, it should be our vision. And what I've got from you since I started is it's your vision, not mine.
Well, again, I haven't seen you in my office. I'm a
And
totally
you won't
open
see
door.
me in your
I'm a
office.
totally open door. Come and talk to me. I'm pretty open as you can get. So I'm sorry you feel that way. We'll improve. We'll improve on that.
But I think that's the big thing, is we gotta work together. And I appreciate you, letting me talk. When it's your turn, I won't interrupt you, okay? Okay, it doesn't matter.
And
That's all I got.
we can get better, Commissioner. I mean, we'll be better.
You can tell me all day long on things, but if I don't see it, I don't believe it.
And again, you've got to come by my office, sit down, let's get the paper out and show you.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. First, I have had difficulty contacting our local commissioners. How are our commissioners going to know what the populace wants in any regard when you don't get any responses back from the commissioners, either at public meetings or by email, number one. Secondly, is there any process by which issues such as the Walmart issue can be put before the citizenry so their input becomes known, rather than a group of relatively few citizens of this county? Thank you.
I would say,
Thank you.
on the Walmart, we can always do that. We can hold public. We held an open house this Saturday.
Right.
The intent of that open house was simply so people could get a visual. I mean, we hear about the Walmart building, but people don't know what to expect in looking at the magnitude of what will need to be done.
May I clarify that? I guess I'm saying in the magnitude of that particular purpose, are there any ways that the populace, I don't remember any public meetings about the potential, I could be wrong, about the potential purchase of that building. Why can the citizenry not have an opportunity to say yay or nay, and then expect our commissioners to respond on our behalf and not on individual agendas?
Well, as far as the meeting that I understand they had was basically your general commission meeting, being able to present that. Now, either way you go, Walmart's a hard animal to wrestle. I can tell you that right now, and regardless of what we do with it, we won't move fast. I know that I believe it's best in the private sector, but even in that, we won't move fast. we'll talk it over. The commission will feel good about that.
But what
Because
about the
ultimately-
citizenry?
Ultimately, they've got to say that, yes, that we want to sell it, but what I'm getting at is, if we deem that we've got to move forward on it, we've got to have more of these meetings, we've got to have more town halls, we'll hold more open houses, and we'll let the public begin seeing that building, and you tell us, you see what I'm saying? You
Absolutely, absolutely, and
tell us.
that's my point, is, the citizenry does not seem to come into, consideration with some of these, decisions that are made that affect us directly. Thank you.
Why can't there be a ballot? Why can't it be put on a ballot? That's right.
It could.
Yes.
It
Well, I
could.
mean, if you put it on a ballot, then that way, if you're
Amen.
gonna go vote, hey, you'll know what it says.
Amen.
Agree.
I totally agree with that.
How does that happen?
And I'll only do devil's advocate just for the sake of it. But what if Walmart was a good project, was a good thing? It's just that maybe your government has done a bad job at maybe articulating what that need would be, right? And so a lot of times things might get a negative image out there, and it's going to be voted down simply because of negative image. It's our responsibility as government leaders to be able to take that debate to the public, show you the benefit. We have not done that, right? So if it goes to a public ballot, I know probably how it will come out. And so what you do is you ask your commissioners, you ask your election administrator to file, basically, the county commission would pass a resolution requesting the election office to place that on a ballot for the next public election. August is gonna be too late, but November, they probably can get it on the ballot for November. Or some following year. I don't think we need a special election for this, because that costs the taxpayers money. But if you wanna piggyback that off of the November election, it probably could be done.
So could you commit to that then?
Absolutely. I mean, my thing is, I believe we need some public debate so that the public is informed, they get to see the building, and then they make their decision. One main thing is, I don't want the public making just a decision based upon hearsay and someone else's opinion. So we'll hold open houses, we'll keep having the public come up and look at it, whether they deem it's a worthy investment or not. But ultimately, the public has to be engaged too, right? This is a two-way step. We can hold open houses, but if the public is not coming to see the building, kind of shame on the public at times, right? They're not making a decision based upon the building, but maybe on the future cost. My thing is about cost and utility. It has nothing to do with the building. I look at, we'll never utilize that building. The cost will continually be a recurring drain on our operating budget. And we can use the monies towards Big Sandy, towards these other projects up here to benefit. So that's the reason I'm not a fan of Walmart. I'm not a fan of that project.
Thank you.
But I like your idea, so let's follow it up. Write me a note so I can do the research. I can email you the chain of action that we will follow to get it on the ballot in November.
Okay, so you like that idea, I got another one for you.
Okay, but let's move around. I'll come right back to you.
My question, and I guess address is basically to the commissioner and commissioner-elect and to you. 13 minutes. 13 minutes. That is the national average between the tornado warning and the tornado touching down on the ground.
I heard that last time you said that, yeah, last commission.
And you guys voted in place of one building in Camden, okay, one building in Camden, that you're not sure what you're gonna do with, that already has a National Weather Service approved storm shelter right behind it. I know, I was on the team. That church is approved as a storm shelter.
What church?
Just so you know, the one right behind the wall.
First Baptist?
Yes,
Okay.
that is a National Weather Service approved
Okay.
storm shelter. Our populace is roughly 67% older, and another, what was the total, Mayor? 63% live in trailer homes? So you're gonna have an elderly person leave Big Sandy to drive to Camden to find a storm shelter in 13 minutes.
What are you getting at?
You commented on the storm shelter that we're trying to get built there. That's shelter. What would you have us do without a storm shelter here? sir?
I got no problem with the storm shelter.
You brought it up.
I did, because it's for 100 people. There's 600 people in Big Sandy,
And
right?
there's also a church right down the street that is also a National Weather Service certified storm shelter.
Which
I
one
was
is that?
on the team. Right around the bend by Commissioner,
That on Point Mason.
Yeah.
Okay, then why do we need one here then? We got one there.
Again, your population is 67% elderly that have 13 minutes. 13 minutes, sir.
I got what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, okay? And if we're gonna do something, let's do it for more than 100 people.
Well, at the end of the day, these are FEMA grants, and we have to do them by what we can afford, first of all. So we're looking at a quick win. What is the proper size? Would it be 100? Would it be 150? They come in various sizes. We have to find the proper land to be able to put them on. And so our first step, to me, is just get a quick win, right? Any storm shelter that's a FEMA-related safe house, is a win for everybody. Now, there may only be 50. We may have to start 50, go to 100 later on. Our target would be 100. Again, these are things that we would come back and hold public meetings on. We've already been looking at this for three years now, almost 4 years. And so the way FEMA works is these buildings are about $400,000 buildings, and at a cost of about $40,000 to $100,000 of county money, right? Again, where are we going to get the money? That governor's grant that I was talking about, that flexible $600,000 in that little pot, that's where we pull that money to get these storm grants. And we wanted to do one here in Big Sandy, and we wanted to do one in Holiday. And so, and I know Marty's probably going to tell you what I think he's going to tell you, that y'all got a storm shelter right here at the school.
We do, if the community knew it. I mean, it would take a few $1,000s, yes, to bring it up so that it would be, but I mean, you got an underground concrete roof building on site that's as big as this structure in this room right here. It's never been used.
And we can spend the money here in the school as well, basically remodeling the school. We could do the gym, remodel the gym, and beef that up and preserve that structure. But those are the ways we can spend the money. What part of our thinking was, what we need is for EMA to have the key. And that's Richard Key and your EMA department. When these emergency events are triggered, he's the boss, right? Everything runs through his department. And so, working with the Board of Education, so long as we've got a memorandum of understanding and the proper personnel can open this school up, non-school personnel, then there we go. See, we've got a quick win right here, but we still need to have it FEMA rated, right? And so that's why we would go after the FEMA grant to come in here and shore it up, make sure we have the proper accoutrements to run it.
The other problem that they run into, because Paris uses their schools as storm shelters, the school storm shelters can only be used on off-school hours. In other words, because it's the days, whatever, the safety issues, safety concerns, they can't use the schools for daytime storms. It's not allowed. And there's no way it'll ever happen. That's the other issue with that. I mean, the thing that I'm sorry for getting a little frustrated, but a few years back, the mayor proposed a plan that included a storm shelter here, a storm shelter in Holiday, a farmer's market, and it was all voted down. And they screamed and yelled, and public ballot did, and screamed and yelled, and everything was shot down. And then 2 years later, again, when the whole community could have benefited from storm shelters, now one small area seems to benefit. And just bothers me. So I'm sorry for being frustrated, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to make that notification to the National Weather Service when there's fatalities. You know how bad that hurts me? Just one is the fact.
Here's one quick question. Tornado sirens. How many has Big Sandy got? How many tornado sirens we have at Big Sandy?
Now, see, I love discussions like this because we determined that sirens are not a good investment over code red. And that our traditional thinking, all of our life has been sirens, have they not? Where's the sirens?
We're pretty good in Jackson, Tennessee, I'm telling you that.
It all began here. Our weather initiatives really began at that October 2018 meeting when we began putting data down to the paper, doing our research, and we found that an investment in code red was far more reactive and responsive and impactful than the sirens, because what they were finding with the sirens is they last about 5 years, and then they either go obsolete or you're constantly maintaining them, and in a storm you don't actually hear the siren when you need to hear it. And
I heard him in Jackson, Brett.
Per the National Weather Service.
I heard him in Jackson.
Per the National Weather Service, and anybody can go online and look it up. Outdoor sirens were meant for people in outdoor situations.
Yes, exactly.
They were never meant to warn people in their homes. Especially today with the new insulation and everybody fortifying their homes, that's not what they're meant for. They're meant for city parks, they're meant for people out on the street, but they're not meant for people in their homes.
I went through a tornado with Jackson and I heard it and I was.
And I've heard it.
But I
We've all
was
heard
close to it, now in all fairness, I was close to a siren. Now, is it better than nothing? Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Well, we
right.
have the code red system.
Not everybody knows about code red.
And what we found, Jerry, was that sirens cost $200,000, $300,000, right? Code red costs us $15,000. So there's a trade-off, and there's that $150,000 that you save to be able to do a park project, or to put into EMA, or to put it into a storm shelter. It's all about trade-off, financial trade-offs, and what you're willing to make. Hey, if we're overflowing with money and sirens, we can acquire some sirens, maybe we'll look at that at that time. We just had to start from the ground level about what was the best use of the money that we had. Lisa.
Guys, can I just ask us to dial it down a bit? We are here asking questions and trying to get answers. Now, in general, I'm glad that you came, and we've watched, haven't we? We watched this go on, and we're glad that we're getting this opportunity. We don't throw babies out with bathwater. If we can put 100 people in that might be dead, as a tornado comes through and slams their body against a tree, we've saved 100. And when the last big tornado came through here, maybe you've forgotten, but it was the people in Big Sandy that lay dead in the street. Not the people in Camden, not the people in Harrison, not the people in Jackson. It was the people in Big Sandy. So I'm grateful if we can put 50 or 100, because those people, I have a house and I have a storm shelter in the bottom of my house. I've got a $500,000 house. I can do that. My neighbors are living in trailers that you can blow the wind through like that. They're gonna die. If it rips up through there, they're gone. The weather, nothing but the weather. I use that, my code red, and my weather radio. And that's because you guys got them out there. Do you know how many lives were saved? Because not just in our county. I took that and I sent it to Humphreys County and Erin, and they got ahead of that tornado running down on them through Paris and Stewart County because of a little something that cost $15,000 on this end. So let's just be grateful for what we've got. I'm not saying don't get smart, don't build another one for another 100 people, don't build another one. Let's do baby steps. I'll take the 100, then I'll take the 50, then I'll take another 100. Let's just do what we can do. And taking offense, I can hear your passion. Yeah, he said him, but he's telling you from his perspective. We're not even in the same party, but I have a respect for this man that he has come out here. He stood toe-to-toe with me on many occasions and answered my questions to the nth degree. And he will answer yours. And he has sat in that office, and I have put some burning questions, and I got a good one coming up here in a minute for him. But let's show. I'm sorry, Mister. I didn't mean that to be funny. But we're a small community. Let's show that respect. Just because we have to live with each other, and if we can't be civil to one another, then what are we doing?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and And the commissioners, I know everybody's just doing the best they can. This man just got to speak back on US soil. And already we just keep running into each other and stuff, don't we? And he's out there trying to fix what got broken while he was gone.
In Commissioner King's defense, he's a new commissioner to me. I mean, I was leaving when you were coming on board, and this is what the town halls, thanks for being here. And I think that this is something we need to keep up. I actually enjoy them because it's our opportunity to kind of talk freely, you know, and you can't do that. I always say, and I kind of get on the commissioners too, don't ever come to the county commission meeting trying to get educated, because you're already too late, right? That's a business meeting. You should already be informed of what you're going to vote on, how you're going to do it. Same thing with the public a lot of times. If you're just coming to the county commission meeting, well, you're probably not going to walk away very educated on the topic. So the best way to do it are these town halls. It's coming to my office. It's being engaged with your commission. Facebook, I mean, my goodness. The smartest thing I could probably do is stay off Facebook, but I can't. I want to engage the public. I mean, I think that that's commendable of your leaders to communicate, but, and I think these town halls set a good example that we can communicate better, we can communicate more effectively. I'm just glad we have them. Ever how they evolve, sometimes they get into informal debates. We haven't shouted yet, but we get into some good debates. That's good. That is exactly what our public needs, is public debate, public discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for taking my question. This gentleman over here was talking about the ballpark and building up the ballpark, and then you've made the statement to return on our investment. Well, here is a ballpark that's used seasonally. Where's our library that's used every season? Where is our library? It is no more, thank you asbestos people, but we need a library, and I can trust and believe that there are people that have moved into the Big Sandy area, maybe not into the city limits, but out in the county, and they are still pumping money into Big Sandy through, I don't know, taxes, how about just buying things? Would not have moved here.
You're gonna like my answer.
Well, let's wait. They would not have moved here had there not been a library. I mean, kiss it goodbye. And you're talking about building up the place, and then children's minds are just as important, if not more so, than children's bodies. I'm a retired school teacher, I know.
When it comes to the ballpark, let me rephrase that.
I'm not talking about ballpark. I'm talking about
The Big Sandy City Park. So we're investing into the city park. We know that city park is used for some things. But you know what? The ball teams, the baseball team, the schools are dependent on it. I mean, things like that nature. We can do them all. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with the library. Okay, so the library is a hard dynamic to grasp and understand as well. But what I want to do, and it's all about how you would shuffle the money, right? Before y'all know that I would like to sell the Walmart building. And if James Peach is watching Facebook now, I really want to buy your building in downtown Big Sandy, and I want to turn that into a county annex. I want to put the trustee's office in there. I want to put the clerk's office in there. I want to put a library in there. I want to have an office for our veteran service office, an office for our deputies to be able to use. Our weather spotters can have a control, and EMA can have an office there.
That doesn't seem big enough to do all of that.
But the reason being is I have been looking for a building in Big Sandy since I've become mayor, because my pain is that you have to drive 35 miles round trip to do a license tax or to pay a property tax. And now the other offices, such as Register of Deeds or Assessor of Property, they probably can operate out of Camden a lot better. But our trustee needs a satellite office, our clerk needs a satellite office. We could use the other part of that building for a library. We will find the proper use for that building, but we need a Benton County government annex in Big Sandy. And so his building is perfectly situated. I hope you don't go up on the price on us, Mr. Peach. But but I have already reached out to him expressing interest that the county would be very interested in acquiring that building. It's the perfect location, it's a win-win for all. Mr. Peach has done a lot for Big Sandy and his community, and his heart is here. And honestly, we would like to remember him that way too, you know, and honor him and have that building up there become a big county annex. But that's just my idea. Public pressure, feel free to reach out and talk to him about that. But if he's willing to sell, we're willing to buy.
Well, that shouldn't be the only game in town. I mean, you're talking about building, this nice gentleman over here was talking about the elderly, which I'm aging up that way. So the thing is that why can't we look at some of these things that we have, and perhaps, as this gentleman said, let's combine them together. If we had to go to the scratch with the library, make it something that you could put elderly people in as far as a shelter.
That was the original
No one says it
plan.
has to be just solely a library, it could be a library with a shelter.
And
That was the
everything about the
original plan.
availability, the money, you know, the coordination, logistics, and everything.
I got that, but I'm just saying, let's expand our horizons here and think about how we can double dip for the same amount of money. Is that all right with you?
That's exactly what the first plan that was voted down was. It was, that was the exact plan, was a multi-use community building that had the storm shelter and capability.
Oh, listen, does that mean we can also add a wellness center to that too?
That's up to you guys. As long as it has a storm shelter, I'm a happy camper.
Our original plan was to buy the old Methodist church, 3 years ago. We were looking at the old Methodist church, preserve history, you know, have a civic hall in there with the county offices in the back. That was our original plan, and then we began looking at the renovation costs, and we just couldn't get enough people mobilized and supportive of it at that time. But again, the main thing is we do need a county annex up here, but it's got to be located, it's got to be convenient, it's got to be where people will use it. And so that's why the particular building that we mentioned came into play, that we knew that that was a building that would meet the needs that we were looking for. Yes, ma'am.
Could there be the possibility of tax incentives for a purchase like that, that could be offered in conjunction with this purchase?
Let's say that again.
Tax incentives to Mr. Peach.
You know, it's all about the seller, right? What's their requirement? Could we offer a tax incentive like with the Walmart building? The Walmart building actually sold for $1.7 billion, $750,000 cash, $950,000 what you call an equity credit, meaning they took a loss on their valuation and we let them figure it out with the IRS, you see. And that's what we would do. It all depends on the valuation of the building. We have to go get the proper appraisals. But if we've only got so much cash, everything above that amount can become what you call a tax credit for the seller.
There's one more thing. I don't know, some of you sound like you're pretty new. We've been out here 5 years. You said the sirens and stuff like that. Locally, you might hear it within this 3 block area, right? I'm 6 miles out. And then beyond me, there's 18 miles out into the point where there are people living, all up and down there. So they're never going to hear it. I can't hear it, like you said, in my house. I can't hear my driveway when my car's going off. So we've got to get the broadband internet expanded out there. We've got to get our elderly and those who are not technology savvy. We've got to make sure they've got access to weather radios, that they do have code red and that kind of thing. But we can do that through marketing campaigns. We can do that through just coming together as a community to really enfold people. But it's not that they're not, you know, the weather, nothing but the weather.
Myself and Brad have made it a point. We are at every one of these meetings, and we have made it a point. Anybody needs help getting out of code red, or you need weather radio programs, that's why we come. We've made it a point. We have every one of these specifically for that reason.
But sometimes we need to go beyond just these meetings because some people are very secluded. And I'm not saying that you didn't do a good job, I'm not saying that. But there are other further methods of contacting particularly those that are isolated, the elderly, those with medical needs per se. But if they don't know,
Mr. Mayor, maybe you could consider running an opportunity after September 1st, maybe creating a program out of your office to bring folks like us together to brainstorm some ways of maybe doing some community service hours with the teenagers that need it, to do door hangers, knockers, and get to these other folks.
We already
You wanna talk
tried
about
that.
that, Ben?
The original plan was we were gonna send out mailers.
Yep.
There's 16,000 and some residents. When it came to the commission of this respect before your time, paying for the mailers, it wasn't gonna happen. We tried.
And our timing is really good now because of COVID, and COVID has really driven a lot of what I call discretionary grant monies our way that we can use for public safety. And so public safety could be a public relations campaign. It can be these mailers, and we can spend money on those particular needs that you just stated. My thing is the town halls. It starts here. I love them. I was having one every other month here, but maybe we need to have one every month so that you can book it, on the last Tuesday of the month. It's all about helping Commissioner King make good decisions as a commissioner. It puts him in touch with you too. It's all together in one room. So I'm loving this discussion, loving it. This is exactly what we intended. Again, our last one before I left was here, and so now it's a good place to start back. But
Where the mailers left off, remember I was trying to get them on the electric bill, because people always open that.
and there's always room for these opportunities. And I do want to get back to the weather. If y'all haven't been paying attention, some weather initiatives that we have accomplished over the last 3-4 years, and then I'll turn it over to you when that comes. But I want to get to going back to this ARPA grant, this TDEC ARPA grant specific, which relates to, let's just start from the top. First of all, the federal government, as the federal government does in everything, they really don't ever know how to define how they're going to get money, right? So they came up with this thing with the American Recovery Act, and we call it ARPA. So when you hear the lingo, politicians and elected officials say it's ARPA, it's basically the COVID money from the federal government. But it came very discretionary, meaning it came with a lot of strings not attached, which is kind of what we need at this point in time. On the same time, part of that Recovery Act was they realized that the infrastructure of our stormwater, wastewater, sewer, water was very much deteriorating. Big Sandy being one of those communities that knew that they had a very aging system that needed to be replaced. How is Big Sandy going to get the money, right? We talked about how Big Sandy is going to be limited in their financial capacity. And so here comes the TDEC ARPA money. So they basically give the CFO the discretion to be able to allocate, this is how much we're going to help this utility, this is how much we're going to help this. We have come to the plate wanting to help Big Sandy. We know that they've had their problem for some years. We're bringing Big Sandy $650,000 for their infrastructure upgrades and replacement. We are also bringing $185,000 to Harbor Utility. Is that proper name? For their grant. And I've invited Mr. Seth Wright here, who is the engineer for the utility district. And Seth, if you just want us to stand up and tell us what that money will do, but basically the money is for match, so that they can go get a big grant for this amount, but they have to come up with that cash match, and that's what the county, your money, that's what we did with it. We came to help our utilities, we came to Harbor, gave y'all the match, and if you just want to tell the crowd kind of what your plans are and how you will use that money.
Yes, sir. Mayor, we appreciate your support. We appreciate the county's support with this. And as the mayor said, the money that the county will be providing to Harbor Utility District will be used as a match for a much larger grant that is part of those ARPA funds that he mentioned. Those ARPA funds are coming through TDEC, through the state, and they're giving them for rehab of water and sewer. And with the money, Harbor is is planning on applying for with the county's match, they're gonna do two things. One, they're gonna rehab the existing well for Harbor Utility District that supplies the Harbor Town area and the rest of their customers. And the other thing is looking for a new water source in the Faxon area toward the Danville area. And where that there can be a new water supply down there to serve customers that are already there, and also promote development along that part of the county, which I think in turn would, increase the tax base ultimately to get some development going down there, and I think would be really good. So Harbor, on my behalf, for Harbor, we really appreciate, the opportunity to do this. So be happy to answer any questions that you have about it.
And again, what he says, ultimately, it basically brings investment, right? And I've always said, and I'll let Jennifer talk in a little bit on our economic development initiatives that we've been doing lately, but everyone wants to define a county by, well, how much industry you bring in, right? Where's the new business? Where's the new building? Honestly, if we're going to save Benton County, it's how many neighborhoods we're going to be building, okay? Because those neighborhoods bring families, and those families feed the schools. And these families will start off with a 2-bedroom home, hopefully expand to 3 and 4. Well, that keeps your plumber, your electrician, your carpenters working, okay? So no one moves to or develops neighborhoods on well water, right? Or septic. Now we can get away with septic, but treated water is a must for any type of future residential development. So not only did we give money to Big Sandy, but we also gave money, $650,000 to the Benton-Decatur Sewer District to get our interstate exit improved and developed. We're giving $700,000 to North Utility District, which is the district is actually located in Decatur County, but it serves more Benton County taps than it does Decatur County. So we'll put a little string on that money to say that so much a percentage of that money has to go to what you call Benton County expansion. And we're giving the city of Camden $1.4 million for their water project. So now that we begin growing and reinvesting into these water utilities, our belief is that is going to begin spurring residential investment, okay? And we were talking about that dynamic of our population dropping, especially in what you call the workforce age. Those are the little things that turn that demographic around. So it means we're going to have a lot of Yankees move into Benton County, right? And but you know what? And whether they come, I'm after the folks from Bellevue. That's right. But I'm after the folks from Bellevue, Spring Hill, Germantown. I'm after those families that are sitting there in the cities, can't stand living in the big city, right? They're looking for us. They want to move here. Well, broadband is also another one of those utility accoutrements. We have to spin up and begin investing in broadband, because now you can work in New York City right here from Benton County, Tennessee, right? Yep. If you have quality broadband, you can do the job that you're doing in Nashville, Memphis, whatever it may be. But they're not going to move here on well water. You see what I'm saying? That's not going to be the attractor. They're going to move on to that next county that's offering those type of developments. So wastewater and water utility investment is a big deal. It is as big as any economic venue that you could go for an industrial park or anything like that. It's going to have just as much financial impact as a new business would. So we're not ignoring that. Just to give you a little, 4 years ago, Benton County was 94 out of 95 in internet, broadband monies being spent. We're literally now, I believe we're number 1. If we're not number 1, we're in the top 3 per capita investment. Just in the last 2.5 to 3 years, we've had over $20 million of broadband investment in Benton County. That's good news, because that's what's bringing families here in the future. I talked to TEC before I got here. and they have laid their fiber down on their territorial print around Big Sandy. Their next target is the lower Big Sandy area, and heading basically west and south. So, Western Kentucky, Tennessee, we call them WK&T. I know that all it had to be was, the contract just had to be signed. They were awarded a multi-million-dollar grant for the north section, Lick Creek Road, north of Big Sandy, up in the old District 23 area, we call it. And, but they couldn't get started because, you know, there's so many federal wildlife refuges and TWRA lands, and so they had to get approvals from the Department of Interior, EPA, TWRA, all that type of stuff. So those are all now signed, sealed, delivered, and they should be laying fiber heading north of Big Sandy. If they're not already doing it, it's literally any day they can start laying that. So that's the last piece up here for the Big Sandy area.
That's New Hope and out downtown Branch.
It's headed north. Now,
They already got it.
so with this ARPA grant, we have got $800,000. We have got $800,000 of our ARPA grant dedicated to broadband expansion for Benton County, and that's $500,000 with TEC. Now, it doesn't mean we give them five; they still have to come to the plate with some money, right? So it's really matching. So you're always going to get 2-to-1 return. We're hoping to get a little bit more than that. So that's going to be another $1 million expansion by TEC, and I believe Charter, the Camden area has some, like Cedar Lake and that area through there, those neighborhoods are due for some expansion and out on that side. And so the other $300,000 of the $800,000 total is dedicated towards Charter. So, but we'll continue to do our part in pursuing grant applications or assistance to help these private providers go after the money and bring more and better broadband to Benton County. So, appreciate Seth. Any other thing you want to say? Yes, you're good, right? We're all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, what's the timeline? What do you foresee? Okay, if you project the timeline of your development, what are you looking at?
We're looking at, I think the grant that we're looking at applying for with that county's match is due November 1st. So after that, we've got the plans for that Faxon area pretty much drawn up. We have a few things to do on that, but we have a good start on that. And so, once that's funded, we will be able to, hopefully start construction like next year, next spring on that. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
And you've attended several of our town hall meetings in the past, and we always try to, when we're doing a project, to get folks here to kind of give you some information. Before we're going to get to the weather, but Jennifer, I want to recognize Jennifer Wheatley. She's no stranger to the area. She is our Benton County Economic and Community Economic Development Director. I like to throw on tourism on there every now and then because I know her background in that. And since Jennifer has come on board, she has been phenomenal. I always, don't take this the wrong way, Jennifer knows what I'm going to say. I told her I was not going to hire her. Like I wasn't ready. I didn't think we were there yet, right? I knew that we needed to get a playing field in place, and we would get everything, and then we'd go after an economic development director, right? And also I knew her talents in tourism, so I would have thought, I really want her for tourism. Well, in my absence, this is one of a really big asset for the county was hiring her. She has completely changed my mind in that we need her now. And the reason being is that the Ford Blue Oval changes everything. Okay? I know we hear that term a lot. Okay, Ford Blue Oval. It's all the way down in Brownsville towards Memphis. I'm telling you, it is a big deal. And y'all don't see it, but every day, she and I are constantly waiting with the requests for land, opportunity. We want to look at your industrial sites. It is driving activity here, and we are going to land some big fish. it's going to come. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The industrial board acquired the option of 555 acres as our next, basically say, industrial playing field. And I'm sure that as soon as we get that spun up, it'll be full. I'm telling you right now, Ford is coming and is driving industrial development here. We're hoping to be able to really announce something very much sooner than later. But Jennifer, I'll let you have the floor and just kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you think on it.
Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm a Big Sandy girl. I have lived here most of my life. I went away to Jackson for a few years, but generally I've lived in Big Sandy, but I've never worked here. So it is my absolute pleasure to be home and to be the Economic Development Director for the county. The mayor is right. I worked at the Jackson, Tennessee Chamber. I was director of the Paris, Tennessee Chamber. I have never seen industrial traffic like this. It is absolutely amazing what Ford is causing to happen. And what we are seeing is not necessarily Ford. It is, I have a welding shop in Jackson, and I'm scared to death of what Ford is going to do to my labor pool. If I came north and got in Camden, because of the I-40 exit, I could work on my Middle Tennessee customers a little more, and I would not be so afraid of what's going to happen to my labor pool. And in terms of the electric vehicle market, we are exactly 100 miles from Spring Hill, and we are exactly 100 miles from Stanton, Tennessee, where the Ford plant is going. And we specifically had people in town a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, the minute that slide went up, they're like, oh, because they are providers to both. So it is changing how economic development works, and I'm glad the mayor has decided to let me stay. I'm pretty busy. I was hoping he would be all about it. Does anybody have any questions? I'll answer anything I can for you. I've seen a lot of buzz on Facebook of people who want to know exactly what prospects are looking at us. I don't know how familiar you are with the procedure through which we find out that a company would like to come here and look at us, but I get an email and I don't know to whom I am speaking. It is Project Terry Keeney, and they tell me the parameters of what they would like to know. They frequently will send me a couple of spreadsheets to fill out, and I get to prepare a packet and send it back to the state of Tennessee. They don't want somebody from this town or that town calling this company directly and aggravating them. It keeps a level playing field, so I literally do not know to whom I am speaking. And the answers I send back do not go to whoever's coming to look. They go back to the state of Tennessee or back to TVA. So there is no desire to be secretive or to keep anything from anybody. We're not told. If we never get looked at again, we're not told. And we were not told to the point that we had them in a van 2 weeks ago where they were from or what they were doing. I wore Google out, y'all. I mean, for 2 days, I was like, okay, if their home company is here, and I know they're coming from over there, then I'm texting the mayor, hey, I think it's such and so in North Georgia, and I think this is their customer list. I could have been so wrong. You just don't know, and so you very frequently are dealing with anonymous prospects, and the last big one we dealt with, we had 45 minutes. They landed in a helicopter and they refused to leave the land that we were showing them. We couldn't take them to a boardroom and feed them a meal. We couldn't do anything for them. You've got 45 minutes from the time this helicopter lands until we want to be back on that helicopter. And so maybe we have all afternoon. Maybe we have 45 minutes. We just don't know until they tell us exactly what time they'll be there and what we do with them. There is a lot of winging it, but that's okay. I'm old. I've done stuff like that before. If you have any questions, my office is inside the Chamber of Commerce. I am their renter, And I'm happy to talk to you about any theoretical economic development thing you would like to talk about. If you want to know exactly who's looking at us, I cannot tell you. We are out of the race the second we breathe their name. They kick us off the list, and for the most part, I probably don't know. Anybody got a question tonight?
Good job.
Thank you.
And I will say that we have had so much activity in the last month and a half that I'm about selling Benton County, right? I'm about getting into their mind and playing the psychological board games with them. And so TVA is normally the driver, but you have Tennessee Economic Community Development tagging along with them, and of course you'll have another private party, and then you'll have the particular prospect that may be there. But we've seen them so much lately that now they're walking away. Our main attribute is location. I mean, you cannot beat Benton County for the location of the future playing field of industrial development in Tennessee. And the reason I say that is, before Ford Blue Oval came into play, I was selling that we were halfway between Memphis and Nashville. We're the perfect location, but you're normally going to be assembly or simply distribution-based businesses. But Ford coming to Brownsville now puts us halfway between Spring Hill, Cadillac, GM, and Ford Blue Oval. So now our prospects have changed. They're all automotive supplier types. Meaning we now have a playing field that we couldn't offer before, right? We were too far away from Spring Hill or something. Now we can get in that mix. So when Jennifer sees a RFI, we call it, come across the dashboard, and you can tell it's automotive related, suddenly we can raise our hand and say, we can go after that particular prospect. Whereas we were pretty weak prior to Ford Blue Oval. So TVA, all of them walked away, and even these particular prospects said, wow, y'all really are in the best location. So that's all I wanted. I wanted us to get into their sight that they need us for their success. So, yes, ma'am.
With these jobs that we hope and know will be coming our way, the one thing that I have not heard any discussion on is transportation infrastructure. Not all your employees are going to be at those upper levels. Many of them will depend on some sort of public transportation. I'm not saying subways and things like that, but has any thought been given to that in terms of encouraging growth for some of these employees who will be at your lower levels in terms of pay?
Right now, the models we use do not include any public transportation. The models are written on the acceptability in rural areas of a 45 to 60 minute drive time. For the right job, people will do it. Our selling point there is that we have 1,800 people in Benton County who drive out of the county to work. There's the starting point. Bring those folks home first. There's not a model right now in TVA, there's not one in Tennessee Economic Development that is in any way focused on public transportation.
I don't think the focus needs to be there, but I think it needs to be a consideration when you're looking at potential growth in the future. Thank you.
And that's normally once you get closer to who you're dealing with and you see the labor demand and need, those are one of those challenges that will probably bite off at that time. But I like this question because this is something that we probably can add to our little informational sheet that we have. It's the public transportation element. So thank you for that. All right, one other item. This is talking about the roadways. Highway 641, Benton County, and three other counties partnered together in, basically an application for study of four laning all the way from Hazel, Kentucky, all the way down to the state of Alabama. Basically Highway 641 all the way down through Wayne County, Decatur County. We know that Henry County is carrying a lion's share right now because they're already four laning between Paris and Murray, Kentucky. And so we know that they'll help us get at least from Paris to the interstate. But we do know we don't have a four lane in Benton County, and I think we're the only county in West Tennessee without a four lane. And that's a big deal when you're meeting the criteria of these companies that are looking. They require, what kind of four lane do you have? So we feel good about our prospects of being able to escalate that a little bit ahead of time. It normally takes about 15 years to get those things done. And we believe that our hopes is that we can do it inside of 10 years. Big Sandy bypass. We're looking at trying to get something to allow Big Sandy citizens another way to get to the north end of the county without having to go over that one bridge, right? And what happens if the bridge goes down? What happens if it gets cracked? What happens if there's an accident? So we already realize that there's a need for Big Sandy to be able to transport a lot easier. And so that application has already been in the works for 2 years. We have actually drawn out some rough sketches of where we would like for it to go. But it's something that we're going to continue to push. They don't move fast. They do studies first. But that's something when you talk about roadways. And then one last thing is that I-40 beginning in Benton County will begin to be three-laned all the way to Memphis, Tennessee about this time next year. They've already got all the engineering. We are going to be the first area in Tennessee laid with what they call smart fiber, where it's hard to fathom, but in the years ahead that there's going to be these driverless trucks that are going to run on fiber, internet, broadband, whatever it may be. And so our interstate will be laid with that. It's a $100 million expansion. They will put $6 million extra into the rest stops, and at the same time they will reconfigure our off-ramps and our interstate exits at the same time. So so as far as highways go, and that's why I wanted to throw that out there, transportation. But you had a question, Mark?
I may be incorrect, but I understand that some counties have wheel taxes for these large, for example, logging trucks that rip up our new roads. And I realize this is more of a parochial issue, but has any thought been given to that? I don't know what kind of relationship there is between these big logging companies with their big, heavy trucks ripping up our county roads.
And just so you know, the way the funding element, that's a whole other discussion and a whole other town hall. I like to talk about what I call our money pots. Because we fund our government and run our government by various money pots, right? And our county highway department runs mainly on mineral severance tax. So your gravel trucks, sand, anything that's extracted from the ground greatly impacts their bottom line. Our roads can be horrendous the way these gravel trucks and all that put the wear and tear on, but the only local funding we have is with the mineral severance tax.
Okay, so there is a tax.
For county roads, but it's just for county roads. Our state highways are on a age formula. Well, we have brought TDOT in here several times, and you could not have queued it any better. Like I said, I want you to follow me. I want you to ride out on this road with me. And I said, you cannot go by an age formula because gravel trucks and timber trucks and sand trucks age these things a lot faster than whatever formula you've got. I think it was like every 7 years they're going to pay Highway 70. I said, we need it after 3 years. And literally, I said, we're driving out there, all these trucks were pulling out in front of me. I was like, thank you, Lord. I just wanted them to see that you can't treat us like a regular area that's not seeing the truck traffic that we see. You talk about wheel taxes. Wheel taxes normally do not go to roadways. They normally are project specific, capital buildings, schools, things of that nature. But our mineral severance tax is the base formula for that, and then when you look at the Improved Act for Tennessee, it's basically some state funding that's handed down based on per capita and how many miles of roadway you have in the county, and they'll also give us, that comes from the gasoline tax, but they will also give the county a supplement on roadways as well.
So you was talking a few minutes ago about a new road to connect to the northern part, so you don't go over the bridge. Where are you thinking about putting that?
Well, again, that's all subject, because you gotta have agreeable landowners, right, and you know, that's gonna have to go through and connect. Do we connect? I guess going about, it's not Pencil Factory Road, I don't think. What's the road that heads right out of town? Not Point Mason, it's the one as you go into town and, out by Yeah, and so getting out there and being able, and, you know, because it's a short strip, you know, and that, we're just, from visuals, we're saying that's probably the least costly, less intrusive on the private property. But then again, we're all, if you're a property owner and you want to offer up some land, the state will buy that because it's a state road.
Right.
See, that's the thing. It's connecting a state road to a state road. So it's on their dime. We just have to pretty much put forth the applications to get it done. We're doing the same thing with Camden, trying to connect two state roads, going around the court square, because people are pulling campers and boats, and you're getting tractor trailers coming right through the court square. That's not built for that type of traffic. So we're also looking for a bypass to get us around the square at the same time. Big Sandy's one, and Buck Carter has said this at these meetings about how that we need an alternative route other than the bridge that's there right now. It's just, if something happens to that bridge in an emergency, it's really going to.
You're gonna have to go 7
Well,
miles out of town.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the ongoing discussions, and we've got the application for the studies to be made, and then stay tuned. They don't move fast, but at least we've got them in the works.
So that is a starting project?
Yes,
And you said you started that 2 years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago, we've started that process.
Okay.
All right, couple of quick grants I want to also look for. Jerry, you'll be interested in this, about where do we come up with money to do things for Big Sandy. We applied for a multimodal access grant through TDOT. It's a $1 million grant. The county has to come up with $50,000, or the city of Big Sandy or the county can apply. You remember that little pot of money I told you about, right? So we're going to pull that $50,000 from that pot of money, the governor's fund, to fund our MAC. So in essence, it's $1 million not out of your local pocketbook. Okay. Again, we're leveraging money. This is the reason you elect me. My background was accounting and finance. I'm all about leveraging money because I know we're not financially prosperous, right? So we've got to be smart with the way we use our money. Leveraging these discretionary grants to go after other grants is the best use, most impactful use of those money. Eventually they'll be spent out, but we hope to take something that would normally be spent in 1 or 2 years and make it last 8, 9 years if we can. So that's the strategy that we have taken. So far it's paid off, but we will do a multimodal access grant that will connect sidewalks all the way from the town center, all the way out here past the schools, okay? Because, when you study the health element of Benton County, which I won't get into, that's another town hall session, but walking improves health, right? Diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, you name it. And our dynamics and our reports and our numbers, we're not a very healthy county. We can do better there. Sidewalks are a big deal. People keep talking, that damn mayor spending money on the sidewalk. Well, they don't realize that we're trying to improve the health element of the county, the safety element of the kids walking back and forth to school. So now they've got a venue. It helps your curb appeal, makes people come into the city now. Instead of going way out of the city to build their house, maybe now they want to come into the city to build and buy property and build a house, you see. So it is a big deal. And so we have one plan The first application got turned down because we got it in too late. We've shored it back up, and we're gonna resubmit for that again, and the county will probably bear the burden of that, knowing that we take that administrative headache off of the city of Big Sandy. But one grant that I would like to see the city of Big Sandy pursue is a diabetes grant. It's a $450,000 grant, 100% paid for, okay? $150,000 for 3 years. And so our grant will build sidewalks on the state highway. Their grant would build sidewalks on the city streets, you see. So again, we begin improving curb appeal, basically gaining participation amongst our citizenry to walk and to enjoy their town and be safe at the same time. So those are things that Mayor Clement and I have talked about already, that's what we want to kind of go on in the future. And so, but those are just a couple grants I wanted to get out there that are Big Sandy specific that I think are a big deal. And lastly, and we'll get into some general discussion here, but I just want to go back over the weather. You know, Jared, it's a great discussion because we were geared for all of our life to think sirens, you know. We're old fashioned. And we have seen the sirens in the past. That's what we were used to. So the very first town hall here in October 2018, we'd already seen the chatter several months before. And it started with frustration. And it really started from the Big Sandy community about the tornado that you mentioned. And people were not getting alerts quick enough, right? So there are so many dynamics to weather. There's alerts and information, there's coverage, there's shelter, there's emergency response, information to the public. It's just unlimited. Mr. Ben Richardson showed up at the very first meeting and began bringing the awareness and the importance about weather, monitoring, and all the things that come with that. From that discussion, now, how many people plan for weather, right? I mean, as a public servant, I know Dustin's running, and you know, Commissioner King. I mean, these are things we don't study before we get into elected office. I mean, how do you solve weather problems, right? But after that meeting, we said, you know what? It's a big deal. We didn't realize it was this big deal, and we're gonna spin ourselves up. We're gonna get smarter. From that, several initiatives began. Weather spotting is a big deal, and I would encourage anyone just to take the course. The National Weather Service will come up here. Ben, do we have that scheduled yet?
They're still doing the online at the moment. The National Weather Service office in Memphis is still under
the COVID
protocol.
Okay. So, but they will come up here live. We took our classes up here in the Big Sandy Fire Department.
Yep. And everybody was amazed. I don't know, we got a county mayor, storm spotter certified, but at that time I got a state rep, storm spotter certified. Then all of a sudden, after they took the classes, then they knew what we've been talking about the whole time.
Yeah, we're going to be looking in the next movie, the sequel to Twister 2. This mayor out there chasing tornadoes. But what it did, it made us weather aware, the importance of it. We began supporting our spotter network, realizing that they needed communication vehicles. So we turned over our EMA page. Ben has accessible rights to make posts on that to inform the public, so that you can watch our Facebook page of EMA, know what the storm situations are coming. He gives us literally a weekly, if not daily, depending on the severe weather, weather briefs of what to expect. He has been so accurate, and he's got a heart for it, that the National Weather Service comes to him. I mean, he's a big deal. He's a big deal, and because of that, they give a lot of attention to Benton County. We went to Severe Weather Awareness Day in Nashville, and it looked like a Star Wars convention. These people wearing bear mud, they dress up, but we took that opportunity to talk to all the media outlets and the importance of reporting for Benton County and watching Benton County. I'll let Ben give a dynamic of why we have this weakness here. But at the end of the day, we now have Code Red, which is a big deal. We now have weather spotters throughout our community. We have informational pages that get the information out to you. And just this last county commission meeting, we kind of did a little bit of icing on the cake, was a radar system for Biggs County that will be going up probably within the 8 to 12 months. And it will give us coverage in area coverage that we have never had. And it will be accurate coverage. And it's because of Mr. Richardson and his crew and what they've done to bring the weather footprint to Big County. And I'm going to say that we're probably the premier rural community in the United States of America now because of these efforts that we started 4 years ago. We didn't have a clue, like, who spins himself up for weather, as a public servant. But now it's been a huge success story. Ben, I'll turn it over to you for any last comments.
It's just been a long road, and the radar, like you said, is the icing on the cake. That 13 minutes I talked about, and this is why I'm so glad you guys approved that night. That 13 minutes doesn't just affect us here, that is the national average. Everywhere in the United States right now, there's gaps. Right now, we live under a radar gap. Our closest radar stations are going to be Nashville, Paducah, and Memphis. By the time the radar beam gets here, it can't see anything below 5,000 feet. Nothing. No radar, none of these smartphones, no apps, the FAA, the rivers, nobody can see below 5,000 feet. We worked out a deal because, and I hate to bring it up, but at that severe weather action day, University of Alabama had their mobile storm spotter truck up there, and Brett being Brett, he walks up and he starts popping hatches. He's looking at doors. All of a sudden, this poor, terrified student comes walking up. Can I answer you any questions about our $2 million plus truck? The look on his face, and Brett's like, I want to see. So we couldn't afford that. What we could do was allow a company that sells that weather data to TV stations, to commercial traffic, the airplanes, the river, the commercial traffic across the board, all the TV, the National Weather Service. Well, they sell their data to that people. They needed a home. In return, for us giving them a home for their radar station on top of our water tower in the industrial park, everybody in the EMA community all gets free access to that data now. Everybody in the county, EMA director, all your spotters, your sheriff dispatcher will have access to that data in front of them. Your schools. So now your principal, when he's got to look and make that decision to send them school buses home, well, he's got live and real data, whether or not he wants to hold that school bus back 10 minutes. And guess what? It cost us nothing. $0 is what it cost the taxpayer. Just partnering up with this company. Not only did it not cost us anything, but the Camden Water Department now has excess money because the radar company is going to take over the yearly required inspection of that water tower. Seems like a great deal to me. It doesn't just affect us though. The radar, the gap that I'm talking about, this radar is being specifically built to fill this gap. So the total radar coverage is 90 miles around from Camden. That interacts with 3 National Weather Services and multiple county EMAs. So we've just made what everybody, and you've done the interviews, everybody in the weather world is calling this truly an historic event. Now when I came here, and I was so proud to hold that sign up, we are now a storm safe certified community. Everybody's like, oh, that's a title. Well, between the radar and the state now reaching out, asking us if we can use an ASOS system out at the airport, and the state's going to pick the bill up for it. What an ASOS system is an electronic way of continuous 24-hour a day monitoring of all weather. It's an FAA-grade weather station that connects to every National Weather Service, that connects to the FAA, that connects to. And the state just generously reached out to us and asked if we could use this at our fair. Yeah, we sure can. Thank you. But all this came right after we received that Storm Safe Community Certification. So for those of you that thought it was a title, I guess you were wrong.
Well, and again, it's all about learning. We didn't know, right? What is a storm-ready community? What is all that? Now, honestly, we are probably the most premier rural community in America when it comes to being weather alert, weather informed, and it's going to take us about 8 to 12 months to get the radar online. But goodness, it just keeps getting better and better. So our focus now, these first wave of initiatives were based on, let's get our infrastructure, let's get these things ready. The next wave of focus is going to be on shelters and service. Okay, so getting these storm shelters in place, getting our service components, EMA and the schools, getting all of us talking so that we know how to react appropriately to a severe weather event. So that's going to be our next focus going forward. And I appreciate all the work that you did on that, Ben. Quickly, just want to say the next town hall here will be July the 26th. Okay, same place, same time. July the 26th. We also hold them in holidays, so they'll be at the McElwain Volunteer Fire Department Thursday and on July the 28th. So if you miss one and you don't mind driving that far, the next one, I get asked, why don't you do these in Camden? I'd love to do them in Camden. At time, there's only so much time to put forth, but I feel like Camden kind of has better access to their government. They can attend the meetings a lot easier and probably get informed. I would love to have one in Camden. If anyone will figure out a way how I can get a place and a time and a space to host one. But basically, the last Tuesday of the month, Big Sandy, the last Thursday of the month, and holidays. So we'll hold our next one. Come with questions, write them down. If you've got questions you want me to ask or answer, just write them down on this piece of paper and give them to me. I'll email you a response later on in the week. So just to close up, now it's kind of open floor. Ask your questions. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to apologize. My comment about not coming to your office was very unprofessional, and I apologize to everybody here. That was not, shouldn't have been said. So I do apologize. Thank you for the work that you do on the weather stuff, and it's great stuff. And thank you all for coming.
And I just say, I call him Colonel King. I mean, to me, he's military all the way. Thank you for your service. And it's like, he and I haven't got the chance to really know one another. I mean, I was going out, he was coming in, and it's just good human fun or whatever debate. I don't take it personal, and like I say, there's opportunity for us to talk and really get informed and do some big things. So I just appreciate you being here, and next time I'll reach out directly to you to make sure the commissioner representation is here as well. But thank you for being here.
Mr. Mayor, we talked a couple of years ago about the prospect of getting some convenience stations for trash in like Big Sandy or Holiday. Over in Humphreys County, they have a model where they have the convenience stations located throughout the county, and they staff them with people that are either on disability or Social Security that can only work so many hours and don't require what a normal younger person might require, medical and stuff like that. They already have all that in place. Is there still an opportunity for us to move convenience stations back to our furthest ends to save our trips?
Another opportunity for a whole new town hall session when you talk about solid waste. And if you live in Benton County, you know that we do not own our landfill, right? We for or against it, mad or not, we sold our landfill, 20 plus years ago. So when that happened, Benton County government got out of the business of solid waste. And why would you need one, right? We don't run the landfill. But we did not put the proper foresight into that decision, because you always need a solid waste department. And it's for things like convenience centers, recycling. These things that the landfill doesn't necessarily do. Waste management technically is not in the business of recycling. They offer recycling programs or community support, But communities do recycling. We take it to waste management to dispose or properly get out to the proper venues. So convenience centers. I'm big on convenience centers. I would like a convenience center in the north part of the county as well as one in the south part of the county. We were able to acquire land in the south part of the county and down by the interstate for zero. We've got a prime lot. Did not cost the taxpayers a single penny. I've had a harder time finding a location here in the north. And the reason that's a big deal is, just like you talk about the conditions of the road, I don't like what I see when I drive down the road. The trash blown out on the side of the road. And I believe, first thing to do, well, people are lazy. They're not covering up their trash properly. We want to blame that person. But when you have to drive 20 miles to the landfill, you're opening up an opportunity for trash to blow out to begin with. So we are creating a little bit of the litter problem by not having convenience stations properly located in the north and south end of the county. So me and another commissioner here got to driving around the county and looking for spots. We had a place up here, what's the name of the road up here on the corner, Terry, where
Bain Road.
Yeah, Bain Road. Okay, that lot was for sale at that time. We actually had a good price, and we thought we could aesthetically embed a convenience center. And when I say aesthetically, you think convenience center, oh man, it's just a nice little ride. The seagulls are gonna be flying around and landing. But in today's times, you can you can develop convenience centers where they're aesthetically pleasing, and Waste Management will drive up from Camden to get the trash and residue. So we just have to find a home for it. Another spot that I had located, someone told me it sold recently, but you're going down, you turn on Lower Sandy Road, you're heading out of town, where the TWRA, that gravel pit that was across the road from it. Not the one up on the hill, but the one low. TVA owns that land through there, I believe. And so I've been trying to get TVA to what I call negotiation table to see, would you all deed that county property over? Because that would be a perfect convenience center location, right? We're not tearing anything up. It's already gravel. It's people can drive there. We just need a location. So if anyone wants to work that deal, feel free to talk to all your TVA folks. But honestly, we need a convenience center in this end of the county, so that just like the trustee and the clerk, we were talking about having an annex, we're just saving people a 30-mile drive to drop off trash. Suddenly our creeks and our ditches and our roadways get a lot cleaner. Fox Sanitation, they're a private industry. It probably would take business away from them, but would also save them money. Because they're not driving, they don't have the gas bill anymore, right? And so there might be a little trade-off there, but I cannot make my decision based around Fox Sanitation. I have to base my decision on general public, what's convenient to you, how can we get trash off the road, and fulfill our solid waste footprint at the same time. But that's why Benton County needs a solid waste department. And we created one on paper, okay? So we went through the resolution, went through the county commission, we've created a solid waste department on paper, and the reason we did that was for grants. So Friday, we drive over to Henry County's recycling program. We're taking members of the solid waste committee is going up to Henry County to see how it works. We're going to begin applying for recycle grants, things that you got to crawl, walk, run, right? And so, so that's our first start, and I'll let you know how that goes when we get back from that. But that little pot of money I talked about, right? That little pot over here. That's how, if there's any grant matching money, we pull from that pot to leverage for these other grants. So at the end of the day, it won't cost Benton County citizens anything out of your local pocket.
Has there been any discussion about preparation in the event of an earthquake in this area? We are potentially at risk for that type of situation. I mean, has there been, I mean, I don't know what EMA has done, as far as developing plans. It's not something you can just address at the moment it happens.
That, there, I would say, and I know where you're gonna go with it, but I'll let you talk in a minute, but specific training, I would say most of our training would be just for awareness, what you call tabletop exercises a little bit. We look at ourselves as being on the far end of the epicenter, which would be down towards the further West Tennessee. So we do know if there's an earthquake in West Tennessee, we are going to be the heartbeat of the operation. Okay, they may not be able to get past Benton County for their aid. So we have been beefing up our airport. We've spent over $1.2 million on airport upgrades and grants over the last 3 years. We've got another $800,000 grant. Didn't cost us anything, but we're beefing up our airport. We're also getting ready to announce the acquisition of an EMA building out into the industrial park. So now there was some contention of why put it there versus here and there. But we wanted our EMA building in the industrial park because first, you got a power source 24/7. That's the last power to ever be cut. You've got your other utilities. You've got Second Harvest Food Bank. So in the course of an emergency, you've got to have food. We've got that resource with them there, and we're putting EMA on a field that they can be successful on. And so we'll be looking for that announcement here pretty soon for a new EMA building. Yeah, I'd like you to address.
On the earthquake, before I retired, I worked with, I was in the National Guard, worked full-time. We worked with FEMA, and all the models that I saw and showed, and we worked several different scenarios and also getting help to people, okay? All the models show very little damage here. Okay, if you go towards Memphis and you get, I think, to Jackson, Madison County, you'll start seeing the bridges are reinforced, okay? Because they are closer to the epicenter, like the mayor said. But there's a lot of data out there, and the thing is, it's not if, it's when. And it will happen sometime, you know that, okay? But the model that I saw, and it's not changed, is that Benton County will be a little affected, but not much. But it will affect everything towards Memphis.
And we might be the hub of operations, meaning they may launch from here to go further west. So that's why we want to be ready. We don't want to ignore it. We want to be ready from at least the emergency services standpoint. Any last questions?
I got a doozy, but I don't want to be disrespectful asking it, but since I've been over here in Camden and in Big County, I've talked to several sheriff's deputies and just in general, just folks at the sheriff's department. I know it was a struggle with this last budget, and they got a shortfall on what they were hoping to get on their budget. But some things have come up, and I would really like it if you could look into it and maybe get some answers for us. I've been told at night that we generally have only 3 people on, 3 deputies on to tour the whole county. Two deputies and one leader. And then I've been told by the deputies themselves that I'm friends with that they have to come up with their own ammunition to go out and qualify and stay trained. That to get a bulletproof vest, it costs nearly $1,000 to protect them. That in the sheriff's cars, they don't have a computer like in Nashville and all around where they can run a vent and they can look for wants and warrants before they get shot like over in Stewart County and that kind of thing. And I'm worried about our deputies, and I'm also worried about our safety. Here in Big Sandy, we went through a little lull where we weren't getting so much, but we've had a rash of murders while you were gone, and recently we had another one. And I think we're working, 4 in a year and a half, something like that. And we're seeing an uptick in our domestic drug trade. And we're seeing people that are wanted by the TBI come out here and hide. And we need an expansion of not only our EMS, but our people. And do you know I don't know if it's true, but I've had the sheriff's deputy tell me that they're making $16.57 an hour to go up here and look at somebody in the face and maybe get blown away. Where your money is where your heart is. I think our deputies need to know that we think a little bit more than $16 an hour. How are we going to keep and retain the best? And how are we going to deliver against those folks that have just gone to the dark side and are committing these crimes? So if you could find some answers and see if any of this stuff is still existent, if maybe I haven't been updated, because honestly, Mayor, I haven't done any of this since you've been gone. You know, so.
Hey, I do know it's true because Kenny was asking for my daughter to maybe be an officer and get trained and all, and she makes more money at PML than what he could start her out at. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable my daughter going out to risk her life when she can make more money at PML. That's just crazy.
I mean, you know, I was former military, you're military. Training. This is what we did. So we would be, right, Ben? So we, right, Mr. Terry? Because it's muscle memory. It's muscle memory. But you have to have the equipment and the investment in that process. And I'm concerned that maybe the commissioners aren't aware of the struggles that the sheriff's department is going through, and maybe that's a good conversation we need to
I serve on the law enforcement committee, and the sheriff tells me he's got all the deputies he needs. Okay, he doesn't have correctional officers. He's always been short there because you have to deal with the inmates. I can understand that. Okay, the pay is a problem. The city of Camden pays $2 more. He's about to lose an officer there. You know, it's a struggle. His budget was cut, and there was $200,000 cut, but it was cut in overtime because he used that money last year for overtime because officers were sick. He didn't have enough officers, so that money was cut because of that. Okay, he still has money for overtime. Now, as any county office, if they run out, they need money, they come back and ask for it and usually get it. You know, I don't know a time when they haven't got money.
Sir, I would say to you, I like the sheriff's always been. He's very approachable, he's very honest and direct with us. But I'm struggling accepting his assertion. If there were 3 law enforcement agents on duty for the entirety of Benton County at night, I'm not sure I'm good with the fact that that's sufficient to meet our needs.
When I was in his
concerned
office,
about that.
Yeah, when I was in his office, talking a couple of months ago, he told me there were not near enough deputies, that he did not have enough.
Well, can I, just one point, as a matter of fact, when we were writing back on the slide, he's prior military, I'm prior military, you're prior military. Right across the river, you know where Westcliff? There's a National Guard MP post right there.
Yes.
Across the river. Right. As we know, they're already certified, which means for the jail, no training time.
When you look at, and I have to say,
I'm just saying,
I got
there's
you.
probably some people looking for the jobs there.
I agree.
And resource officers.
Yeah.
And resource officers.
And they're
Resource
already
officers we
certified.
need. I agree with that.
I mean, they're already certified. It doesn't get any better. They put the veterans to work and
I'll just say that 3 out of 4 budgets, you gotta crawl, walk, run. You gotta live within your means to a degree. And we know that Benton counties, we're never gonna be able to compete with a Humphreys County or a Henry County or a Carroll County financial wise. Their tax base is far greater than ours, and more than likely, they'll always pay more for their deputies, right? So if we were to go up on salary, if salaries were the only answer, well, as soon as we go up on ours, they're gonna go up on theirs to compete. So I don't wanna get in a contest of trying to outspend counties beyond our capacity. We're just not gonna be able to do that. But for 3 out of the last 4 budgets, we have come with raises. Now, they're not the greatest in the world, but when we've been prosperous over these last few years, we have reinvested that money back into our employees. Before I became mayor, the starting salary was $19,700 for a county employee. So if you think that deputies are underpaid, imagine starting below the poverty line before you ever get started. We have now done adjustments where we believe they're up around the 23,700. It's not enough, but it's a lot more than it was 4 years ago. And the same thing with the sheriff's department. And that's going to be a slow, gradual process of trying. And we gave them a very aggressive salary adjustment 2 budgets ago that was not distributed the way we intended it. Okay? So that's just a management discretion, meaning we wanted it to do this, someone else thought it should do this. But still, we have come with salary adjustments to the best of our abilities. Can it be more? It can always be more, just like with the education. Marty would tell you with teachers. We can do the same thing with teachers. But I will say, sometimes we don't have that pot of money, all those different pots of money I was telling you about. And the pot of money that draws from the sheriff's department is not that big. It's always going to be tight. But we have another pot of money that we have pretty much given him basically $1 million worth of upgrades and improvements to his jail, his operation, vests, vehicles, cameras, impound lots. So we've tried to come with other measures to help the sheriff's department that normally, it's not payroll related, so they don't touch it and feel it like they wish, but we try to help them where we can. Now, what can we do? Just in this budget right here, we have roughly 23 people budgeted for deputy level, law enforcement level personnel, okay? I don't believe the sheriff can attract people. That's the one thing. So will the 23 be full? No. So he'll probably wind up with probably 19 or 20. So at the end of the year, this is where we can budget for some things for vests, is we're always going to over budget when it comes to the sheriff's department. We're going to budget for 23. He's coming in at 19. We've got a differential. Maybe we take that differential and begin redistributing it towards these needs you were talking about. I would personally, and this is, I'm not the sheriff, I don't run this department, but maybe go with 2 less officers on the budget, redistribute that money in the raises and salaries and things like that. It's not going to be enough, but it's a little bit that can help. It's a slow process that we will continue to work, because we know I think we've gone 3 out of 4 budgets hit bad when you're trying to improve things. We'll get better, but we can't wave a magic wand. At the end of the day, you have to decide whether you want to pay more taxes. Where are we going to get that money? And that's for public discussion. That's what these town halls are for. If you don't mind me, I'm going to ask Dustin, only because you haven't asked all the questions.
Speaking on the sheriff's department budget and everything, did you say that they did turn back in $150,000 worth of grants that could have hired resource officers?
Well, we talked about that earlier. They did not turn them in. Basically, the Board of Education received a $150,000 grant, and it was for the Benton County will come up with an officer, the City of Camden will come up with an officer. It will last 2 years, and again, the sheriff is already having problems hiring people in. So I'm just saying, my instincts tell me that they made the grant too restricted for the qualifications. Okay, lighten up on the qualifications so that an MP soldier from the National Guard can be a school resource officer, so that a bailiff at your jail can be a school. We've got to get creative, and I just think that the state wrote a restricted grant. Don't have anything to back it up. It's just my instincts tell me we weren't the only ones that probably turned our grant. Yes, ma'am.
I also am a veteran, got 16 years in, and I wanted to be a policeman up in Detroit many years ago. Didn't happen. So I am not anti-law enforcement. However, according to Sheriff Christopher, by his own admission, he does not have written policies or training on critical operations such as 911, how to handle a mentally ill person, or even their sex registry. May I share? Thank you. There was a situation where an out-of-state person came, had to register with the sheriff's department. This individual went with an escort twice during normal working hours, and this individual was turned back. On his third attempt, he was arrested because he was over the 72-hour window. He was incarcerated. The response that I got to FOIA requests, there are no written policies, there is no written training. I'm all for the safety of our deputies. I prayed with them. I've asked, can I pray with you? But unless you have training, and those of you who are in the military know, you write procedures, you write training, and you stick to it. So if we have a sheriff who is indicating, I don't have this, what does that say to our citizenry? I'm sorry. That's just,
and the question begs, why?
Exactly.
Why are we sitting in 2022 without the very things that they need to operate?
Absolutely.
Any business has their policies and procedures book. They have standard operating procedures. You know, so if our departments aren't there, Mayor, we're asking you to ask the hard questions and come back and tell us what you found. That's what we're asking commissioners. We want you to go ask them. You're sitting on that commission. I want you to find out the problem. Come back and tell me what you find.
I can tell you for a fact that the jail, I know the jail, they have written procedures that have to have them because we stay certified. Now, he may be referencing something else.
No, this is specific to the department, not the corrections, the jail aspect. I'm talking about the rest of the department. And Sheriff Christopher has said that those procedures and training are not there. That is what he has said.
I'll find out about that.
And I'm honestly, I have been told these deputies are dipping into their pocket to try to get training time on a gun range, and they are buying their own ammunition. Those
I
are
will
things
tell
we
you
need
that
to
the money, we have the money. We have the money. Now, I'm not saying that they don't spend some of their own money, but I see the transfers that happen at the end of the year and some of the budgeting moves that are made, and I do believe we have the money to cover any out of the pocket expense that we just have to budget it right. That's why I said we may be top heavy in something that we have not analyzed properly to be able to move it down into another line of budgeting for him to be able to vote, yes, let's put it in that department.
And let's make this clear, it didn't start with our current sheriff. This problem has existed long before him.
But it's not been addressed.
And it's not, but I have to say there are big programs like his venison program and his food program. He has, allowing the Hope Center in and things like that. So I mean, I'm not trying to pick on the sheriff. I really do respect what he's trying to do, but I think we can help him. And if we get answers, and then if he needs us to help him, the commissioners to help him write it, if he needs a group of concerned prior military to sit down and help do an SOP.
I was going to offer that, but he just, it was like talking to a brick wall. I have got, not pat myself on the back, but I have that experience because of my military experience, and there was no talking. I was going to say, can I help you with provide these procedures for your deputies?
Maybe there's a safety committee that can be formed that could be utilized to make recommendations.
Well, again, I would first say come to law enforcement would be a good committee to come by Mondays. The second Monday at 6 o'clock, law enforcement will normally meet. I think that's a good first start for us to talk this over and then see what the law enforcement committee says, that maybe we can jump from there and do this. And do you think that's pretty good?
I think it's a great idea.
Second Monday, 6 p.m. at the little courtroom?
Yeah, upstairs.
Yeah.
And Jerry, before you do it, no, you haven't asked a question for what I asked you.
So, Thank you. I'm Jennifer and I'm with the CCOC, and we have a summer youth program and we have kids in and out of there all the time, and we have kids walking here from Big Sandy, so I love the idea of the sidewalks all the way. Thank you. Tons of great things, and that's how we see that cycle change, is continuing to pour in and to change this youth so that the 18-year-old graduates and goes to the trade school and gets that job. You know, things are so much different now than they were before, and we're trying to support with 186 food boxes every month on an average that we give out. We drive to Second Harvest, get the food, unload. So Kenny Christopher has been amazing when it comes to having the trustees to help me. The other thing is I don't care if you're just going to be a cook or you're going to work in the front, wherever you are. I don't care if you're never plan to work with kids, but we're running the complete background check. State, local, the whole 9 yards, out of our pockets, because we said that as a board. We want to make sure that the people that we allow in, that you're going to trust, you know, if you're going to trust our kid with us, we want you to know. And when I've had a question about something, I pick up the phone and I call him. So I don't know if that was a fluke thing, and I'm not, you know, but I'm telling you, he said, here's the thing, let me give you this ID, da-da-da-da-da. I said, I'll meet you with the paperwork, blah, blah, blah. He knows what's going on, and he has things. So, I mean, he told me a couple different procedures as to how people do things. So, I don't know if that was a fluke or...
Going back here, we hired a what we call a consultant that does nothing but HR-related policy manuals drawn up. It was budgeted, and it was simply for these departments to utilize for their handbooks, to get these procedures in place, these SOPs. I'll go back to him. We did not fund him this year. It dropped off while I was gone. We had used him to prep another handbook before I left. But I'm also one that says, look, we don't have the expertise a lot of times. We have to go outside to find an attorney or someone who is HR skilled. And so a lot of times that may be the hindrance that the sheriff has not had, that we can budget into his budget to give him that tool in his arsenal to be able to go hire the proper expertise to write his SOP manuals.
They need to be there.
When a 911 dispatcher tells somebody calling in on a medical emergency, don't call back again. That's unacceptable. Particularly when, granted, there have been a lot of calls to that individual. The next day, the individual had a pacemaker inserted, whatever the term is. You don't tell people, don't call back again.
Very quickly now with you.
Okay. My background, I'm Jerry Price. My background is law enforcement and paramilitary type security in Alaska and safety. So it's about 40 years there. And I hear a good conversation about law enforcement. There's a lot of expectation. Who do we call when we need help? 911. Those people have to make snap decisions. Shoot or be shot. Do I go in? Do I wait for backup? As far as training, I've been through training, a lot of training. And I've been through the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy for all the officers must go to the state of Tennessee to be certified. They may not necessarily be trained in mental health. That's why we have, like Brett was talking about, other resources. You may have to make a decision right then, have to subdue someone. It's not always pretty. But if you want to know what training these officers receive, I suggest you get with the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy and get the criteria. So it's not fun. I've been there and done it, okay?
Is that the 6-week course they get? Is that the 6 weeks officer course? I mean,
Yeah.
Basic training is a minimum of 8 weeks.
Yeah, but I've been through all the training. I've been through military training. I've been through special training that I can't go into. But just saying, these officers are under a lot of stress. They're the ones we go to when stuff hits the fan. They may not be perfect. They're not perfect. Okay? Please don't expect them to be. They need to tell.
These certifications.
We need good law enforcement in this county, and they need to be able to do their job and be able to take the bridle off sometimes when you have to. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect science. And when there's only 2 officers on the road, think about it.
And we were talking about, like, the school resource officers, they have to be actively certified. We think that there's a good, maybe that just Prowler certified in the last, there may be a retiree that we could pull from that's not an active officer right now, right? Maybe they don't have their post-certification active or whatever. But those are things that we felt like the grant may have been a little too restricted, that maybe we can get these school resource officers where they lower that active certification so we can pull from more retirees in our community.
I think that's a good move.
And a lot of that's lobbying, that's probably the state level that we gotta go for, but it's a suspicion that I have. I've not confirmed it, but, we looked at that grant originally. It was handed down from the state of Tennessee, and normally they come with a lot of strings attached, if you know what I mean. So I'm sure there'll be some feedback. I'll spin myself up on it before the next school season starts, and then we'll have something. But you were saying
Very simple. First of all, a little off the coast of Africa, which you're talking about. And within the last 6 months, we've had a company that's bought a piece of property off of Forest Lane, Shortland, and they're digging, and they have big trucks in and out. They're completely ripping our road up and pencil factory. Pencil factory, in a matter of 2 months' time, is gone. And you can't. They were coming into town. They're now going out of town. They're going out towards Port Mason, and they've got that complete road just completely torn up. What can we do? Well, who do I talk to?
And again, I'm brainstorming, okay? So my first thing is, we gotta get Buck Carter on board, right?
Buck Carter's tearing up Pencil Factory Road right now to do whatever he needs to repair. The people that bought that land, they don't pay severance tax. Now the state knows they're there. They will pay severance tax, so the road will stay fixed. But the thing is that, yes, they tore that road up.
Ridiculous.
And Buck digged it up.
They started like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're just ridiculously loud, just tearing the whole property up.
I talked to Buck, night before last, and he was telling me that was the project they're doing. They're gonna tear up part of Pencil Factory Road and redo it on the Forest Lane side, or the Point Mason side. So, I do know that's gonna happen.
Well, I'm talking like Forest Lane itself is completely sunk in when you get to Pencil Road. I mean, it just completely caves in. It's gone. So
Buck does know that, the road supervisor, and he said he will fix it.
Okay.
And I believe he will. I mean,
And
he's never told
we
me
have
that.
runoff issues and that kind of stuff. I just don't know who contacted
Right.
what the issues are that we're having.
And this company just started in the night.
Nobody knew they were gonna do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And it was family property. It was given to a gentleman who was doing work for the family on the property. He fell on hard times because of the situation that happened, which everybody's probably aware. And he ended up selling that property to this company, had no idea what they were doing. And they come in with big trucks and just start digging. And it's, I mean, the people that just bought the property right beside what they're doing, this lady's an artist. She can't even do her music anymore. She's a recording artist, and she can't do any of that now because the noise is so ridiculously loud. And the pounding that happens starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, boom, and it sounds like bombs are going off. It's crazy.
He can't do anything about that.
No, I
He is gonna address the road.
Yeah.
And the people will start paying service tax.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Are you on the highway committee?
No.
And what I'm thinking about the highway committees, I guess, now, of course, when they build certain roads, they build them for the capacity, but you have a lot of them going backdoor on other roads that weren't built for these large tonnage trucks. And that's maybe where the highway committee, along with Buck Carter, can put a restriction of low tonnage on a particular road. So that's why I was talking about the highway committee. Maybe we need to look at some roads so that, hey, you're not gonna play by the rules and you're on a particular road. Now the sheriff's deputies or whatever could begin writing tickets by saying, look, we don't mind you driving, but you're gonna drive on this road for your heavy equipment.
They did make them go, they were coming into Big Sandy through this factory, and they made them go left down to Point Mason. which is fine, but now the left side of Point Mason is completely tore up, which I know Emily said about his work on that. And then one more thing, what about a dog park in Big Sandy at the city park?
Dog park.
The dog park, what?
A dog park. About a dog park.
Well, there's one in the city of Campbell right now. Have you seen that one? Normally, dog parks are about a $25,000 grant, and a lot of times that, we'll have a small match out of that. I love dog parks. I mean, that's another thing that's.
Well, there's always people down there with their dogs. I thought that would be that would be something.
I would love to see Big Sandy get one. We would probably come if they can find a space. The county, that's something that the county would help them, come to the table on as far as funding, helping them with that. And, so yes, I mean, the dog park on Camden is used quite extensively, so I'm all for that.
Lowe's help the one in Paris. Really? Yeah.
Any last questions?
I just had one suggestion. Since we're all military here, especially the girl, with the idea of student research officers, may I ask that the two of you partner up at one point and head over to that National Guard, that police station there? Because I don't know about the National Guard, I was active duty for my 15 years, but I know that in the reserves, they have what's called ADSW, active duty special work. And that pertains to you guys' normal summer camp, where you're allowed to work on government projects.
The only caveat to that is that somebody has to pay them to be here, not the National Guard.
But what if they're active duty
If FEMA comes
training?
in and calls them out,
Right,
the
what if
state
they
pays.
use that? What if they use that as their
The 2-week training
Hey,
period.
that's a good question, and I tell you what, we can go to the state of Tennessee on this and say, don't award it to the county, award it to the National Guard, and let them pay. Excellent idea.
It's summer camp.
Use it as their camp, yeah.
It's a win-win.
I'm writing that
Hey,
down.
if you're a colonel walking in there, you're gonna tell you no.
We're gonna listen to you.
Come on.
I know that's a good idea.
Well, we'll go with you.
I'm sorry, come on.
All right, I'll wrap it up. I'll just say, thank you for being here. I felt like this is a very productive meeting. This is exactly what we want in our communities. We want to continue these things, keep them going. Next one, July 26th at 6 p.m. Bring your questions. And again, it's all about engagement. It's about back and forth. Commissioner King being here, it's tremendously important already. He's heard ideas. He's been able to give us information. Anyone who's also aspiring to be commissioner, everyone gets informed. So thank you for participating tonight. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for one-on-one discussion. I will consider this adjourned. Be safe on your drive home. Thank you for my home number. If you need to get in touch with me, I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to the doorknob. I may not have the answer. I'll get it. It's 993.
I don't. I have someone who's lived in a 5G tower.